Blog
Good morning,
Talk
everybody.
Radio.
Hi, good morning. This is Stacy Gertz. Welcome to Empower Half Hour. Today's topic is weight management. I am a teacher and a CASAC-T, and joining me this morning is Melissa Stockman. She is our medical director at the Time to Play Foundation. Melissa is an RN for 23 years. She's board certified nurse practitioner for 18 years. She's licensed in both adult and pediatric care. Melissa is also an American Heart CPR instructor. And I will repeat this again at the end, but to contact her for any further information, she is on Facebook at RejuveN8Me. So that's REJUV, N as in Nancy, 8, M as in Mary, E. And her email is rejuveN8Melissa@AOL.com. And she is also offering today her cell phone, which is 631-275-3465. You're welcome to join in our podcast this morning. Our call-in number for our podcast is 646-200-0848. We'd love for you to call in and join the discussion. Our Empower Half Hour is made possible by D. James Marketing, celebrating 10 years in business. And our sponsors, we have Three Roads Cosmetics of Port Jefferson and New Best Cleaners of Port Jefferson. And you can see the sponsor information and join the Enjoy Life Community Project at enjoylifeproject.org. Time to Play Foundation is a not-for-profit 501c3 corporation with the mission and purpose to enrich the lives of others through programs, public awareness, outreach activities, events, and learning opportunities that further the concept of enjoying life. Please welcome Melissa Stockman. Hi, Melissa.
Hi, how are you?
Good. We're so glad to have you this morning. I know that we work together, and I've seen you at a lot of health and wellness shows, and you always have some tips and tools for me, and I'm glad that you can share so much of your knowledge this morning.
Sure. Glad to be here. I just want to thank you and, Doreen, the founder of Time to Play, for all the good you're doing for the community.
Thank you. We know that collaboration equals success. So we're excited about our new Enjoy Life Community Project. And when it comes to weight management, especially around the holidays, this time of year, New Year's resolutions coming into play soon, there's so many different options and tips and tools. And how do we know, that we're choosing the right program for ourselves, the right regime?
Everybody is an individual and is going to have to go by what works for them. Some people might not have time to make a 2-hour healthy meal. But I just want to step back, and I think once we're more educated, then it's easier to know why we want to do what we're doing. Other than just, hey, eat right. I think if we educate the public on why to eat right, then it's a lot easier for them to want to follow to eat right. And I think, for me personally, in the past I was on the prednisone for a while. I was skinny to begin with. But certain of us are on medicines that really help us gain weight, and then it's harder for us to lose it. I would say, the overweight is really becoming what I call an epidemic in the U.S. And up until now, every generation, the children live longer than that of the parents, up until this generation. Your children and my children will be the first generation ever whose life expectancy is shorter than that of the parents because of the obesity. And I think that's huge. Yes. So our children are expected to live less time than us, the parents.
Oh, my gosh.
People have no idea the impact of this. The CDC says that it's the leading cause of preventable death in the U.S. It's not heroin. It's not cancer. It's obesity. It causes, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol. As a nurse practitioner, I'm starting to see kids now that are diabetics that need to go on cholesterol medicines or blood pressure pills. We never used to see this. So it's more than just eating healthy. It's causing these diseases that we can prevent. And the CDC says now that 1 in 3 Americans is not just overweight, but obese. Over 12.5 million children, and over 20% of our teens. That's 1 in every 5 teens is not just overweight, but considered obese. They also stated that the U.S. Health spends $147 billion in 1 year to combat the healthcare costs caused by obesity. So I believe obesity, if we can, help decrease that, we're going to decrease our diabetes, our cholesterol, early deaths. It's more than just looking fat. It's a serious health disease. Actually, states now, almost every single state in the U.S. has at least 1 in 4 of their population obese, except for 5 states in the entire U.S. All the other states, at least 1 in 4 is obese. Isn't that incredible?
I'm astounded by the stats. Like, I knew that it was an epidemic, but I didn't know the statistics
yeah.
were this fast.
Premature heart disease, there's people having heart attacks now in their 30s and 40s. We never used to see that years ago.
How do we, I know everybody's individual and different, and I know that, when you're choosing the right type of program or, you want to shift gears, it's important to look into certain questions, like does the staff include, quality counselors and health professionals where you're looking, to change your nutrition and your diet, and how limited are the food choices, and like who sets your goal? Are you the one setting it or is somebody else? And these are just some of the things.
When I see clients, I like to set it with the client based on their individual needs. They might be 100 pounds overweight. I'm not going to say, hey, listen, you have to lose 100 pounds. I'm going to make it more obtainable in the short-term future. I'll take 10% of what weight loss we agree they need to lose. So I'll say, okay, let's work on the first 10 pounds. Then when we get past that, we'll work on the second 10. Because if somebody looks at it like, wow, I have 100 pounds to lose, it seems so hard. Like if you have a 5-mile run, it's so much easier if you're like, okay, let me get past the first mile. Then I can worry about the second. So breaking it up into increments helps. But you also have to be realistic, within that person's capabilities. So, but I think also is very important is the person has to be ready for it and really want it. They have to know what their why is. Maybe, they're on diabetes meds and blood pressure pills and they don't want to be on meds and they want to come off of them and live longer to see their grandkids. But they have to be ready and want it and have a strong why.
That's a great point. In my experience, most of my life, I always had to lose like 5 to 10 pounds. And I've had some thyroid issues. So when I was younger, I had an overactive thyroid, hypothyroidism. And as I'm in my young 50s, I'm saying young, I am experiencing an underactive thyroid. So I feel like I have to watch, a little bit closer to my diet. And I've wound up now at a comfortable weight that I think is a comfortable weight and healthy as I'm being checked by the doctor, just based on trying all different programs and all different diets and all different exercises, finally, comfortable with the exercise that works for me, and just making smart choices based on all the different experience of all the different diets. But there's got to be like a shortcut than having to try all the different ones that I went through to get to this point.
Yes, I'll try to get you some tips too. Also, a lot of women pray it's their thyroid. They tell me, as a nurse practitioner, like, please, I hope it's my thyroid. And a lot of women, it's not. For you, it was. Overactive thyroid is when, you're able to lose weight quicker. Your thyroid's overactive. And when it's underactive, it's slower. You could be eating and exercising everything right and still gaining weight. That's why it's important if you're thinking you're doing good with diet and exercise and you're not able to lose weight, to go to your nurse practitioner or go to your doctor or, call me for a consult and do the blood work just to make sure it's not thyroid, diabetes, other reasons. A lot of time it's not, but it is important to check that. Helpful hints, I'd say, first, it's important, like I check everyone, not only are their BMI, I just plot their height and their weight, and up to 25% is considered normal, 25 to 30 is considered overweight, over 30% obese, and over 35 or 40% is considered morbid obesity. So that's a good baseline. It doesn't take into account if the person's very muscular, but when I get a client together, I have special equipment where I measure their percentage of body fat, their percentage of muscle mass. I measure how many calories they burn at rest. So I know, listen, you burn, say, 2,000 calories a day. In order to lose weight, you have to eat under that. So sometimes them knowing these amounts helps them lose weight quicker because then I can give them how many calories a day to stay under. But there's a lot of people, maybe they don't have access to myself or a healthcare professional that does that. And,
right.
you know, I can give some simple tips to the trades. You know, I try to make it very simple. Some people need numbers, and they need to calorie count and carb count. And at the end, I'll go into some free apps that they can get to keep track of their food. But other tips, especially if you were saying holidays are coming up, filling up on water helps. Switching to water instead of juices and sodas, that's another one. Some people spend 1,000 calories a day just on soda and juice. If they want juice, they can, you know, take the pure, like orange juice, water it down a little bit. I like to make it simple for my clients. I tell them to cut back on their carbs. And to me, I say the carbs are the things that are sweet, cakes, cookies, ice cream. Not, you know, we're young. We still have them. I don't want to deprive yourself, but just less often. Maybe a smaller piece of cake. Instead of a whole donut, maybe a mini donut. Also, you know, small, frequent meals. If you don't eat breakfast, that's the best meal of the day, the most important. You're going to be starving for lunch, and what's around to grab quick, you know, in a quick lunch break, Taco Bell, McDonald's. This is what we're used to. So I think it's important to eat a good breakfast, maybe bring a sensible lunch to work. Instead of that big sandwich, maybe make a bigger half a sandwich. It's one piece of bread instead of two. Maybe put it on wheat or rye bread. Or put that same amount of meat over a big salad. You know, so there's little things that we can do. And it's important for people to get educated on.
We have to be careful with the salad dressings. Salad dressings can
yes, and the croutons and the blue cheese. Yes, and what we put on it and all the cheeses. You know, and I help people, I'll sit down with them and say, okay, what did you have for breakfast? And then I'll show them healthy alternatives. You know, people think, oh, I just had a muffin or an English muffin. And there are so many carbs and calories in those and not really any protein. So in my professional opinion, for the most people, you know, without knowing their medical history, most people are better off with the protein. You know, they can have an egg white omelet, throw in all the vegetables you want, or throw in one yolk and the rest white so it still tastes like a regular omelet. And that's not going to have the carbs, and it's going to have the protein that we need. So there's little things. If you have, say, you go out for Chinese food, you can ask them to steam the vegetables, put the sauce on the side, or white rice instead of fried, or, you know, brown rice is even better. So, and if you have pasta and meatballs, have more of the meat, less of the pasta, that's the carbs. All those carbs break into simple sugars, you know. So there's little things even when you go out that you can do. You can, even if you go out eat Italian, you can ask for a grilled chicken parmesan without the breading and the deep fry. So the little things all add up. Think about it like this. When you save $1 here and $1 there and $1 there, you know, how many dollars you save at the end of a year. It's the same thing with your calories and your carbs, you know.
So that's that I've come, like, it's just one healthy choice after another. And even in a restaurant or even in the fast food places, we did a podcast on nutrition last week. You know, there were actually some healthier choices within. They listed, I think, like 30 health food, fast food places, not health food, but healthy choices in fast food places. There's always something that we can do for a healthier choice. And I just want to mention, you mentioned the different body mass index. And for a healthy weight, I think sometimes we also need to consider, you know, underweight and being too thin, you know, as being a health jeopardy. And my research has shown, I don't know if I'm correct, but anything under 18.5 is considered underweight with the body mass index.
Yeah.
And,
it depends on it depends on where you look. Some say under 20 or 18.5. Also, when women are underweight, they don't realize a lot of times they're not getting their monthly flow, which means it's going to be very difficult for them to get pregnant. And when they're not getting their monthly flow, it's going to put them at higher risk for uterine cancers because they're not shedding that lining. So underweight is just as bad as well. And also, if their body can't get the calories and nutrients it needs, it will tear down muscle, and that will make them weaker. So they're, you know, and then also it'll take, if they're not getting calcium, it'll take it out of their bones and make their bones thinner. So underweight is just as bad as overweight.
We have somebody else joining us. Hi, I'm sorry. We have someone else in the studio. Who do we have on? Whoever has joined us, you're welcome to listen or share, and welcome. Go ahead, Melissa.
Okay, and back to the fast food choices. This is an example I give sometimes, and a lot of people pick the wrong choice. I tell them, what's better for you? A KFC, no, I'm not picking on KFC, it's just an example, fried chicken breast or a 4-ounce flank steak. And a lot of people will choose the chicken breast, but they don't realize that chicken breast is breaded and deep fried. So, for example, that KFC chicken breast has 33 grams of fat versus the 4-ounce flank steak, 9 grams of fat. And the fried chicken breast has 510 calories, the flank steak 180. And the fried chicken breast has 16 grams of carbs in it, and the steak none. So it's not always picking the chicken if it's breaded, deep fried, depending on how it's prepared. Sometimes you're better off with that steak. And same with fish. People are like, oh, I'll get the fish choice. Well, if it's breaded and deep fried, you might just be better off with the steak. So
right. And I've noticed a trend in a lot of the restaurants now. They're listing the calorie count on the menus. I know that more restaurants, every time I go out, I'm seeing it more so with the chain stores. But sometimes I'm like, I wish they didn't have this calorie count on this menu right now.
Yeah.
But
well, everybody picks what's different for them. Some people, I have them log and write down every single food. They're not that techie with the phone apps. And I will actually go over it with them and say, okay, instead of the muffin or the bagel, we can have the egg white omelet. And I'll give them healthy alternatives. But also, it's important to know, like, for me, it depends on my client. Sometimes I make it very basic. I'm like, okay, protein, like the chicken or the steak, you can have a handful size. The carbs, you can have a fifth size. And I try to make it simple. I know for me personally, I will pick my carbohydrates. So if I want to limit them in a day, I will stop the bread and the pasta and the rice, and maybe I'll have that glass of wine with dinner or that tiny piece of chocolate. People have to look at it as a lifestyle change. Instead of a diet, I'll lose the weight, great, I lost my 20, now I can have my ice cream. They really have to look at it as I need to eat healthy for the rest of my life. I can't deprive myself. I will, give myself treats here and there. But also a lot of people are emotional eaters. They'll eat if they're tired, if they're depressed. They have to retrain their body to only eat when it's going to need fuel, not because they broke up with their boyfriend, and they took out that gallon of ice cream. Other tips, because I know we're limited for time, so I'll try to tell quickly. Other tips is not only to exercise, they can vary the exercise all the time. They have kids and a dog. Go out with the kids to the park. Take around the ball playing soccer. Take them for a bike ride. Take them for a walk. Take the dog for a walk. There's so many different things that they don't just have to be at the gym for a half hour doing. They can join a sports team, a softball team, a jazzercise class. They can get a one-on-one personal trainer to come to their house. There's so many different ways that they can do. If their money's tight, they can pop a DVD in the TV and just do an exercise workout.
Or even YouTube. There's YouTube.
Or what?
You don't even have to have there's YouTube too these days.
Yes,
I know there's like 3-minute abs, 3-minute glutes. Sometimes if I'm in a hurry, there's actually a vinyasa yoga that you can Google and take. It's like a 40-minute class right off of YouTube. So they have a lot of options for us.
Yeah. I'll tell people it's the little things. It all adds up. Take the stairs instead of the elevator. Maybe park your car further away. Maybe walk down to the corner store or take the bicycle. Those little things add up. I tell people if they do just 10 sit-ups a day, that's 3,650 in the year. So they might look at it as it's only 10. I'm like, no, that's over 3,000, almost 4,000 in a year. They have to realize these little things add up. There's free apps they can get for their phone to track their foot, their steps, and their miles, a pedometer. Target heart rate that they want to get at. For most people, now they have to ask their own nurse practitioner or doctor because I don't know each individual's, history. Most people, they want to get their heart rate up to 220 minus their age. So if they're 20 years old, 220 minus the 20, unless, their doctor tells them otherwise. What else can I tell you? I try to make the diet very easy. I call it caveman diet many years ago before they have these caveman diets out now. I'm like, if it was around, when the cavemen were around, they weren't heavy, the cavemen. They were skinny. You can eat it. So that means the meats and anything that has eyes or comes from the ground, fruits, vegetables. Everything else, limit it. All the manufactured things, that's why we're heavier. We're eating manufactured. We're eating out. We're fast food. We're not eating at home. Both parents are working. So if they can eat a lot of fruits, vegetables, and the meat and limit everything else, it's like when you go to the supermarket, they say go around the outside. Everything in the middle is the manufactured and bad. The outside, think about it, is, the more natural.
I never thought of it that way.
The milk, the eggs, the cheese, the steak, and inside, manufactured. So limit what you shop inside. Oh, and holiday tips, too. Not only fill up on your water, but if you're going to a party and they're going to serve a lot of fried foods and things like that, maybe have a little mini meal before you go, to fill up a little bit so you're not starving and eating all this really bad food.
I know that if there's alcohol at the party, it's suggested to maybe have a water alternating with a glass of wine or a cocktail because it hydrates you and it limits your intake, and it's a healthy suggestion. And another holiday tip is to wear something that's nice and tight so you don't want to overeat and stay feeling in that mode. I kind of like that one for myself. And then, of course, there's the antipas with, meats and salts and all different kinds of processed food where you can, stick with the crudité. Like you said, fill up on the vegetables. And it's just one healthy choice after another, even with the dessert, and, the fruit salad instead of the pastry.
So those are all good tips. And also, a lot of times we bring something to a party. So maybe bring something that's healthy that you would like to eat. So at least you have something healthy that you could eat at that party.
Great point. I do that sometimes with potluck at any kind of party. That's a great point. So did you mention some of the apps that...
Oh, okay, I can do that. There's different apps for the phone. It depends on which phone you have and if it's iPad or iPhone or Droid. There's one called Pedometer where you can track your how far you're walking and keep track of that. There's another app called Lose It, and it can log all your foods, calories, carbs. It will actually scan the barcode of food and pop up about the food, the calories, carbs, and fat grams on the phone. So Lose It's another good one. There's apps now that they can even check their own BMI to try to make sure they're between that 20 and 25 BMI, which is, for most people, healthy body weight. It's called BMI-calculator.net. That will help them. They can punch in their height and weight, and it'll calculate the BMI for them. There's MyFitnessPal, too. That's very good. That has... a lot of things in there. I think there's MyFitnessPal even for the iPad, and there's even a calorie counter for MyFitnessPal I can add on. There's Lose It, I know works on the iPhone and the Droid, and I think those are the main ones that I usually recommend. Definitely the Pedometer, Lose It, MyFitnessPal, pretty much. But there's a lot out there, and almost the majority of them are free, so we don't even have to spend for an app now, which is great.
I know, it's amazing today. There's so many things we can Google at our fingertips, too. On the WebMD site, I know there was an array of opportunities for healthy weight. There are magazine, newsletters to subscribe to, 4 of them that I noticed for a healthy weight. One is called Weight Loss Wisdom, the other Healthy Eating. There's Living Better, and then there's Women's Health, all that you can subscribe for on the WebMD website. And on the same website, they have healthy recipes, and they constantly rotate them. And so, for example, today they listed lemon dill chicken recipe, a linguine with escarole and shrimp, pork chops with fennel. Yeah, and they had a plank grilled salmon. So it changes all the time. That's another great resource. And, we can't beat ourselves up. Let's say, we set a goal for one day and, we don't meet the goal. There's always, every day is a new white palette to start over. If the day's not finished, we still have the rest to, maybe take a walk even, just to burn off some of the calories if we're feeling guilty. We just always have that power to switch gears, to do something.
I think I do like WebMD. A lot of people Google and they follow health advice of journalists or bloggers. So it's important, like you mentioned, WebMD is a good site. It's important that you go to a site that's written by healthcare professionals rather than just a journalist that might not have healthcare background and know. The recipes, I like that they rotate them. Another site that also does that, or on the web, is Choose My Plate. They go over not only the calories, carbs, and fat, but I think also the actual nutritional info of the foods, like the vitamins in it. You can track your calories, you can do meal plans, and they have healthy recipes as well. That's great. And also what I tell people, too, is people don't realize this. On average, walking a dog only burns 122 calories for a half hour. So people think they're going to eat 2 donuts and, I'll just walk the dog around the block. That doesn't, they would have to walk their dog 2 hours to burn off that KFC fried chicken breast. So when people realize it like that, so fine, if you want that donut, then you have to walk an extra mile or an extra half hour. If they realize it like that, then maybe they'll get more active. Or once they work out, they think twice before they eat that donut. They're like, you know what, I was just in the gym for a half hour. Do I really want that donut? So they say running a half a mile at 6 miles an hour burns 408 calories. So to burn that KFC fried chicken breast, you would have to run more than a half hour. So it makes you think twice about the food choices when you realize there's a trade-off.
Right.
So if you have just exercise more.
No, I was going to ask you about one thing. Mustard is something that I have, through all of my experience, when I watch my weight, I use that as my spice. And I don't know if that's the right thing to do. I don't know if you're even, but for example, instead of a salad dressing, sometimes I'll put like greens and then a chicken breast on top, and I'll just use a little bit of mustard for flavor. And I think I learned that from Weight Watchers years ago, but it's just become like my spice of choice. And I'm just making sure that that's a healthy choice. Just came to my mind.
Yeah, I think that's great. It does on everything. Yeah, per serving it has no fat, no carbs. It doesn't have any protein, but at least it's not having fat or carbs. So I think that is a good choice over mayonnaise, which is having fat in it, And a lot of the mustards have turmeric in it, which I'm highly into a lot of alternative herbs. Turmeric's a great natural anti-inflammatory. So I don't have a problem with mustard. I more have problems with the blue cheeses and things like that. Healthy vinaigrette is good. Lemon juice. There's a lot of healthy alternatives. Like tuna fish, you don't have to add mayonnaise. You can dice up onions in it and celery and lemon juice. There's different ways to do the same foods. Add the spices is good when you're on a diet. People think they just do chicken and salad. They don't realize throw in all the pepper you want. Onions, go for it. You have to mix it up and do variety. So I think mustard's a good choice.
That's good because I'm totally a mustard addict. But it's like even if you want to just lose like 15 to 20 pounds, it's always important to check with your doctor or a medical professional, because if there's medicine that you're on, you always want to make sure the plan that you're on is right for you. And there's
a lot of people, once they lose the weight, a lot of my clients, they're able to come off their blood pressure pills, come off their diabetes pills. I would say definitely never do that without the advice of your nurse practitioner or physician, but that could be an end goal for some people. Listen, I'm on 5 pills, I want to come off. That could be their why, or maybe they want to live longer for their children. Medical costs are so much higher because of the obesity, causing the diabetes, the high blood pressure, and everything. So think about all the money they'll save on food and medical costs as well. As health insurance will be higher when you're more obese as well.
That's a great point. There's some books also that, before we wrap it up, I just always, want to give resources. There was a few books that I saw that lended themselves to healthy weight loss. One was Master Your Metabolism. I didn't see the author. It's available at Barnes & Noble. There was a book called Fat Chance by Robert Lustig that looked interesting. Eat and Be Gorgeous was another title that attracted me. I didn't see the author's name. It was a little blurry. There's a book called The Foodist. Dana Rose is the author. That looked interesting to me. And Volumetrics by Barbara Keller, which, and while I'm mentioning this, and you might agree, we talk about all the different tools and tips, but we have to also remember portion control is such an important part of weight management. And I don't know if you wanted to comment on portion control, but I know for me, it took me a while to realize that with the fist, when I'm having a protein, it shouldn't really be larger than like the size of my fist, whether it's a piece of lean meat or chicken, that protein, because we can fool ourselves by just having, large portions of healthy food.
Putting things on smaller plates sometimes also makes it look fuller. Some people have to use the little containers and say, okay, whatever fits in here, this is how much protein, this is how much calories I can have. I just try to make it simple. Smaller plates. I use a lot of times palm size, fist size. Palm size protein. What it fits in an open hand. Fist size carbs. But I would rather, for the most part, depending on their medical, history, for the most part, I would rather them have more protein, less pasta. So more protein, less carbs. So have that extra meatball and a little less pasta. Or, skip the bread slice and have the extra sausage link. It is, you're right, it's very much about portion control. You can have a couple of French fries. Doesn't mean get a super extra large. People go to fast food and they're like, okay, I'll get the double Whopper, the large fry, and the Diet Coke, a small Diet Coke. And they're thinking it's going to counterbalance it. It's really not. Portion control is very,
and that's a good point, too.
Very important.
We should... I'm sorry. I was just thinking we should allow ourselves, either that one day, which I often do on either a Saturday night or Sunday, or sometimes very guiltily both. But I allow myself those days to, have something that I wouldn't have on the other days, just so I don't feel like I'm denying myself entirely. And then, maybe work a little bit harder during the week on my exercise regime. But we should definitely, give ourselves that time out to, have what we want and, add sensibility into the mix with portions. And it's okay. We can't beat ourselves up.
Exactly. I like sweets. So I try to grab for the fresh fruit over the manufactured cake, cookies, ice cream. Not all the time. I like chocolate too, don't get me wrong. But I limit the amount of it and how often I have it. It's important to not only limit the amount, but the frequency. It's nice when you have it once in a while. It's actually a treat. Like when I was little, a Sunday was a treat. You didn't have fast food and Sundays every day. Now it's like the norm. It makes you appreciate it more. It's like if it was sunny every day, we wouldn't appreciate it. But the rain makes us appreciate the sun. So I think it's the same with food. If you have that little chocolate once in a while, it's like, wow, a treat,
That's a great point. And, as we're wrapping it up, I just want to say, what I've always liked about you is, you make it seem so simple. And I love how you started by saying, it's just really one step at a time, not to get overwhelmed. If you have a large amount of weight to lose, just concentrate on those first few pounds. And then with each accomplishment, you feel more empowered to get to the next goal and the next level. And it all boils down to just the power we have inside to make healthy choices. And we know that collaboration equals success. And, by you offering your information, if anyone would like to reach out to Melissa, again, we'd like to mention your Facebook is Rejuven8Me. So that's capital R, E is in Edward, J is in Joy, U umbrella, V is in Victor, N is in Nancy, the number 8, M is in Mary, E. And your email is R as in Richard, E is in Joy, J is in Joy, U umbrella, V is in Victor, N is in Nancy, the number 8, M, Melissa, M is in Mary, E is in Edward, L is in Love, I is in Ice Cream, S is in Susan twice, A is in Apple at AOL.com. And Melissa's cell phone is 631-275-3465. We'd like to thank everybody for joining us this morning and just make it a great day and shine on. Thank you so much, Melissa.
Thank you. And I think in the near future we'll have an upcoming event at Time to Play, maybe a part 2 to this. So maybe if people can check the Time to Play website as well for upcoming events, they can catch it there.
That's great. We also have a lot of pre-Invent Your Life programs. We have new ones in the works. We're so excited. So please log into timetoplay.com. You can see some articles for some instant tools and tips. And we'll look forward to talking with you at our next podcast. And have a great day. Thanks, Melissa.
Thank you.
Take care.
Sure.
All right. Bye-bye. Shine on.